Okay, so they know they'll come here and they'll put in their username and their temporary password, and then it will.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and sign in then. All right, so when we sign in, it always brings us first to our login report. And if I click this blue button, right now everything's open. If I click the blue button, it'll close up the different reports. And I know your login report will look different because you are able to pick and choose which things you want on your report. But just wanted to mention it's a good place to look at for information, and it's a good communication tool. You can look and see any missing services or tours that haven't been charted on. Obviously, this is our training database, so we don't have, regular charting in here, so it shows that pretty much everything is late. But yours will not look like that once you're actually charting live. It will only show the things that haven't been charted on.
Okay.
So once we're finished looking at our login report, we can either click the blue Done button, or we can click up here where it says Today. Either way is going to bring us to what we call our Today screen. And right away, I can see that I have a few things here on my screen, and these are things that have been assigned specifically to me or pushed out for me, such as the care plan review. When your nurse completes an assessment, it will send out a care plan for staff to review, and they'll just click anywhere between these two gray lines. It will open up the care plan, and we have our resident information here at the top, so we know exactly whose care plan this is. And as we scroll down, we see a couple of different flags. The orange flags are what are considered a vulnerability, and that pulls from the individual abuse prevention plan that is required for all staff. So when your nurse does the assessment, it not only creates that care plan, it also creates that individual abuse prevention plan and the individualized medication management plan. So all three things are created there. Like I said, the orange is from the individual abuse prevention plan. So if we see this orange, we know that this resident needs help in some way for this. So this is for bathing. And your nurse will put in a note here exactly what the resident needs help with. So we can see that. Anything that has this blue flag that says new, this is something that has been changed on the assessment since the last time. So we can see if there's anything new. And staff will go through and read the care plan, learn about the resident, and then down at the bottom, once they're done reviewing it, there is a place here where they can check the box, and it says, I acknowledge I have reviewed the care plan and the individual abuse prevention plan. So we'll check that box and we'll click acknowledge, and then that falls off of my list of things to do. When you put in your policies and procedures, if you send them out to the staff, they will come up here. So if I look here and I have this policy for monitoring blood glucose, I can click into this, and it shows me my policy here on how to check a blood glucose level. So I can go through and I can read the information. And then down at the bottom, I can also check a box saying that I have read, understand, and will comply with this policy or procedure. So that's a kind of a nice place that you can keep track of, who has reviewed those policies and procedures, and there's some reports we can pull for that too. Now, as a staff member, if I come up here under provider, I'm going to choose my assignment. Yours will have listed, 14th Avenue, 15th Avenue, Blair Avenue. Those are the assignments, and we'll choose if we're working the day shift or the PM shift. We'll just choose one we're actually working for. Today I'm going to say I'm working as the AM 8 shift. That will then bring up the entire list of services that will need to be completed for the residents under that assignment or that house. Sometimes the list can get long because if there's more than one resident, we're going to have a lot of services. And there's a few different ways that we can manage the list and look at it in a few different ways. If I click here where this blue link says change sort order, I can choose how I want this information to appear. Do I want to see things first by time, or maybe I want to see first by the unit number? or I can drag these things into the order that I want to see them. And when I click close here, the system will remember that. And if I have mine set up one way and you log in and set yours up a different way, it doesn't change mine. So each user can set that up how they like it to look under their username. Another thing that is a really nice way to manage the list is under the search bar here. If I type in certain things, maybe I want to see when my medication passes are coming due. If I just start typing in a keyword, and then I can see when the medications are due here. Or maybe I want to see when I have dressing services that need to be due. So you can start typing in keywords up here and it'll bring up those services. You just want to remember in order to see the full list, you need to delete anything in here once you're done searching for something specific. Over here on the side, you'll notice that some of these things have specific times of 7 a.m. And if we scroll down a little bit further, some of them don't have a specific time. They just say AM, or if I was on the PM shift, it might say just PM or overnight for the overnight shift. The difference between these things are if I have something that's scheduled at a specific time, like 7 a.m., I'm going to want to try to complete that as close to 7 a.m. as I can, especially with medications. If medications are due at a specific time, it's very important to try to get those dispensed at the given or at the scheduled time. And if anything is more than 1 hour late, the system here will put up a red flag here that's letting you know this is late and it hasn't been charted on yet. For medications, if you're giving something more than 1 hour late, it will require you to enter a note as to why the service is being completed late. And if a medication is not given, if it's more than 4 hours late, the system will lock it and you'll have to contact the nurse in order for them to be able to chart on that. Also, if we have something scheduled just for like AM, PM, or overnight, you have like the whole shift to chart on that. So some of these behavior services for managing resident behaviors, if this is assigned to the AM shift, I would want to monitor for this behavior and look at what the different interventions and everything are that are recommended and chart at the end of the shift. If I click into it, I can see here that I have the resident information at the top, and then I have what the nurse has entered here, track and document the behavior. So it has what behavior may be displayed, anything that are triggers for that behavior, what our resident goals are for that behavior, and then suggested interventions to help manage the behavior. And it should have some information, on when to contact the nurse or administration. And for these behavior services, I can see that I have this tab here that says occurrences. And if I choose from the drop-down list, I'm going to be just choosing the number of times I observed this behavior during my shift. Maybe the resident didn't have any episodes of this behavior, and so I would just click 0 and scroll to the bottom and complete the service. However, if I did have any instances of this behavior that were noted, I would choose how many times. And then these 4 boxes here that say interventions, you don't have to use all 4 of them, but you do have 4 boxes where you can choose different interventions that you've tried, and you can note whether they were successful or if they were not successful in managing that behavior. So maybe I had a couple of different things here that I tried. Maybe assisting to another location did not help manage the behavior, but engaging in an activity was successful. If there was other interventions I tried, I could choose those from the drop-down. And then I can always add a note here if I wanted to give any more information. Maybe I can just put worked on a puzzle. And then anytime you type in a note within a service, you also have the option to click this box to send the note as a snap message. If I click that box, it tells me that I will be taken to the snap message screen after charting this service. So what's going to happen then is once I click complete, it charts the things that I noted in this service, and then it also takes me to this screen where I can basically send an internal message to whichever staff members I want to. Maybe I just wanted to include the nurses, or if there's just one person I wanted to send the note to, you can click any of the boxes to choose who you want to send that to. If I scroll down here, I can see the subject. It already has noted that this message is related to the AM Behavior Management Service of Anxiety for my resident Jocelyn Little. It copy and pasted the note that I put into the service that was charted in her resident profile. I can add anything that I want to this message. And then when I click send, this additional information that I typed in here will not go into the resident profile that I already charted. This is just going to be added to this message and then sent to that staff member that I chose. I don't know if you saw that little flash of green across the top, but that said that the message had sent. So to get back to my to-do list, I'm going to click on today again, and it brings me back to our list here. You'll notice here there's some services that have this green complete button and some that do not. Toileting, here it tells me toileting, assist client with toileting. Well, if I did that and everything went as expected, I can click the complete button. It then falls off of my list. The ones that don't have the complete button means that more information is needed in that service. So obviously a weight, I'm going to need to click into this and put in the resident's weight. Again, with any service, you can add a note. You can send that note as a snap message, and you can click complete to complete the service, or declined or not done. If I went to check her weight and she said she did not want me to check her weight, I would click declined or not given, and you'll notice that this box comes up and it wants to know why I'm not completing this service that was scheduled. So you'll always need to type in a note as the reason why you're not completing a service, and you have the option again to send it as a message, and then we're going to just click confirm that we charted that as being declined or not done. If one of these services has the green complete button, but you actually don't complete the service, either the resident refuses or it's not needed, whatever the case may be, if it's not done, you don't want to click the complete button. You would want to click inside of it again and click the declined or not done. And again, put your reason in there. Now, if I have a resident that declined a service or refused something, and I charted that as being declined or not done, and maybe later on they came back and said, you know, I will do that, or you can check my weight, the way that we will go to chart that we've actually done that service, first of all, I'm going to click these arrows. I'm going to click this arrow to the top. It'll bring me all the way to the top of the screen. In any of the screens in the system, if you click the up arrow, it goes all the way to the top, and the down arrow will take you all the way to the bottom. So it's kind of a quick little feature so you don't have to scroll as far. But right here where it says to do, I would click there, and now it brings me to my done list. These are the things that I have already charted on today. And some of the things that we charted on, like this weight here, where we said that the resident refused. Did you see how I just clicked right into that, just how we had on the other screen? We'll click anywhere between these two lines. It opens the service back up. It has my note in here that says the resident refused, and then I can click redo. That will open the service back up, and I can delete that the resident refused, and I can put in her weight from this screen and complete the service. Or maybe my coworker is going to go check the weight, and so I'm just going to click back, and what that does is it takes it off of my done list and it put it back onto my to-do list. Any questions on that process? So, speaking of medications, if we have a medication service due and a vital sign service due at the same time, it will require the vital sign service to be completed first, and it will lock the medication service until the vital signs have been entered. The reason for that is if we have, let's say, insulin that needs to be given, we wouldn't want to be giving the insulin before we check the blood sugar. And so it's going to require that blood sugar to be entered first before that medication assistance of insulin would be available. So if I look at a medication assistance here for, all right, let me see if this works again here. Okay, so in this medication assistance service here, you can see this red box that popped up, and it says this service is locked and cannot be charted. The following services for this resident need to be completed first. Record pulse. So it knows that I need to check this pulse first because that has been ordered for the same time as this medication. And you can see down here on the second medication, it says hold med and notify RN if pulse is less than 60. So that's how the system knows if the vital signs need to be checked for a medication, is if you schedule them for the same time as the service, as the medication service. So I would have to chart this pulse first. So I would go back to my to-do list, and I can go to the top of my screen, and I would type in record because our excuse me, our vital signs come up stating record first. So like record weight, record temperature. And so I would look for the pulse that I need to chart on that resident. So when I come in here, again, it tells me my resident information, and then it tells me monitor and record pulse, contact the RN if less than 60 or greater than 100. So if I say that her pulse was 55, well, I guess it must not have been set up for that. If you have your parameters set in your services, it will pop up a box letting staff know that it's out of range and they'll need to contact the nurse for policy. I'm just going to say this one was okay at 64, and I'm going to click complete. And now if I go to that medication service, now that red box is gone, and it actually shows the pulse rate that I documented here. So if I have a coworker that's checking the vital signs and maybe I'm giving the medications, this is kind of nice because then I can look and see what the pulse was, and I can just, use that instead of having to track down my coworker and say, hey, what was her pulse? I want to show you how to do the dosage box. Let's see if there's a later medication one here. All right, so Marilyn, we need to check her pulse too. I'm just going to go do this quick. I just want to show you how that dosage box configuration looks since you guys do have that turned on. Alright, so if I come in here, you can see the pulse that we documented is here. And then it tells us dosage box, meaning in that bubble pack or the box that you have set up, it has all of these medications. So any one of these medications, if we're going to be giving each of these, you know, they're all in the little bubble pack or they're all in the med packet that you have set up. I can see that the nurse went in and reviewed these, just like you have done, Lydia. And then me, as the HHA, I am going to click this box here, and I'm verifying that I have the medications for the resident, for the correct resident, for the correct time. So that's what that verify button is meaning. And then from here, I can click either administered or declined. I have, if there's maybe one pill that the resident didn't want, I could click chart separately and it would pull that out of the dosage box. So maybe I administered the rest, these that were above, and then maybe this one here I did not give. And if you do not give a medication, so you click the declined or not given, you will have to enter a note as to why it was not given. And then anything that's not in the dosage box, such as, you know, like this one is like a Miralax, you know, that one's not going to be in the bubble pack, so that would be charted on separately here. And I can click that I'm verifying that I have the correct resident and the correct medication, and then if I administered that, I could click that here. This one is a separate controlled medication, not in the dosage box, and so that one is why that is separate. If it's not in the dosage box, then I would need to do a count, and I would put in here the number given, and my instructions here are take one tablet 4 times a day, so I would click here that I'm giving 1, and then I would put in the remaining count. So if we put in a number other than what the system has down, it's going to tell us, hey, you know, based on our count, the number should be 8. And so it's going to want us to just double check. Maybe we hit the wrong button on the computer. And so then we're just going to want to double check. If the count is off, if it's different than what the system has, you want to document what you're actually counting, and then you would follow your facility policy as far as, you know, contacting the nurse to let her know that the count is different than what the computer has listed, and then, you know, she would be able to go in and figure that out. Otherwise, if the, you know, if everything's, even if the count is off, you can still administer the medication. The system won't stop you from doing that, but you just want to make sure that you're counting carefully and entering the correct number. So I'm going to click that I'm verifying the medication and administered. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to complete the service. So any questions on documenting a medication, or if there's a vital sign due at the same time? Oh, the other thing, if we're in a medication service, I don't know, this one might be locked here. It can still show you though. Any medication that's listed here, you can see next to it, it has this eye that's in blue. If you click this eye, it will open a new tab and it will take you to the National Library of Medicine website. So if you ever wanted to learn more about the medication that you're giving, if you're not familiar with it or you just wanted to look something up, you can click on that eye for any of the medications and it will take you there and give you information on that specific medication. And then you can just close out of that tab when you're finished and it brings you right back to the system. If I'm going to give a PRN or as needed medication, I can click here from today and click plus more. And over on the left, I'm going to see chart PRN medication. So I would click that. It will default to today's date and time. And we always want to be charting in real time as much as possible. So that's especially important for as needed medications. And we can choose from our drop-down which resident we're going to be giving this as-needed medication to, and we'll choose which medication we're giving. So I chose her lorazepam, and it says give 1 tablet daily every 6 hours for anxiety. And if it's a controlled substance, it will require a count just like we did in the last strain. So I'll put that I'm giving 1 tablet, and then I would put my remaining quantity. And of course you would want to count carefully and make sure you enter the correct number on the keyboard. And I'm clicking here that HHA verify button, verifying I have the correct medication for this resident. And then if I go down here and try to click administered, it's going to show me that I need to enter a note. Anytime you give an as needed or PRN medication, you need to enter a note as to why you are giving it. This is given for anxiety, and maybe the resident told me she was feeling anxious. You can always send it as a snap message if you wanted to send this to somebody to let them know. And then down here for any PRN medication, it's going to require you to follow up in 60 minutes. So it's going to ask which provider is going to be following up on this service. So you want to make sure that you choose the correct provider. If I'm not going to be here in an hour because my shift is over, the system knows that we're about to go from AM shift to PM shift. And so you, in your system, you would just want to make sure you're picking the correct house, whether it's 14th Avenue, 15th Avenue, Blair Avenue. Make sure you pick the correct provider there to schedule that to. And then you can click administered, and it will record that time. And then if I go back to my today screen, I am on the AM shift right now, but I just want to show you if I go to the PM shift, you can see that as needed PRN follow-up was scheduled here, and it has that time 1 hour after I documented that I administered it. So then the person on this shift can go in at 3:30, and then they can come down here and they can ask the resident, you know, how she's feeling after having that medication. And I can put in here, you know, less anxious, whatever her response is. And I will just click complete there. But that would be, obviously that would be for the PM shift, but I just want to show you what that service would look like then. If we have a resident that's going out of the facility and they need to have medications sent with them, usually if it's ahead of time, the nurse will set up the medications to be sent out of the facility. But if for some reason the nurse isn't available and maybe a resident's family member came and wanted to take them out overnight, if I have to set up medications to send with the resident, I will come up here under clinical, and it's medications sent out of facility. I would click on that. I would choose the date range, meaning the resident's going to leave today and they're going to come back tomorrow. And then I would choose my resident, and it gives me the resident information here, and it gives me her list of medications that are going to be scheduled during that date range that I chose. If there's already a medication that I clicked that I gave today, it would not allow me to select the box, because if I already gave it for today, it's not going to allow me to send it out of the facility. And it would say, you know, charted as given whatever time. It would have a note here so you would know that it was already given. But I will just, if I'm going to send this dose out for both days, I would click here, or if I'm only sending out for one of the days, then I can click which dose I'm sending out of the facility. If it's a controlled medication, again, it's going to ask how many are you sending out with the resident, and then how many will be remaining after you send that one out. You can put any optional note here, and then you can click Save Count. And then you would choose, I just said that I'm sending out one, so I'm sending out that dose, we'll say. And you'll just go through and do that for each medication that you're going to be sending out with the resident. You'll choose the date and time or dose that you're sending that out for. If you're sending out an as-needed medication, you would do the same thing. Maybe we're going to send one Tylenol for each day. And then down here, I'm going to click Print Report. And a new report opens up in a new screen, and it's a really nice report. It would have your system or your facility name here. It has our resident, and it has for this date, I have an as needed medication, and then it tells me what time the scheduled medications are. Same for tomorrow. Whichever date range you choose, it's going to have that for each day. The scheduled medications and then any as-needed medications. Down at the bottom is really nice. You can have their family member or whoever is going to be taking the medications, you can have them sign here saying that they're receiving that medication. And then whichever staff member is actually sending that medication out can sign here saying, yes, I gave this to this person. This person is saying, yes, I got these medications. So then you can keep a copy for your records. And then I would also send a copy out with the residents so they know exactly what time to give the medications.
So what name, like for example, who's going to be that name there? The care, is that the ULP or HHA have to write their name there?
Yep, or if it's the nurse that's giving it out, whichever one of your staff members, JAMA, have released the above medication in the quantity specified to, so-and-so, whichever family member. And then releasing signature is you're giving the medication to them to take with them. They are receiving it.
Okay.
There. Okay. I want to point something out here in this other screen. If I come up here under my name, we're going to go through this information, but I want to, under your name here is where you would go to sign out. If I sign out of this screen, maybe once I'm finished, giving that medication and I walk away, if I come up here and come to this tab, this information is still up here. So anytime you have a report or something that opens up in a new tab, you will have to X out of that tab because it won't log it out from the system, okay? So we can go ahead and sign back in there.
I have a question on the clock in too.
Yep, I haven't gone through that yet.
Okay.
Do you want me to go through that now, or should I finish with the medication?
No, let's finish medication.
Okay. All right. So that's the process for sending medications out of the facility. Now, if we have a resident that went out of the facility with family or whatever the case may be, and we sent medications out, if they come back early and the family member says, well, we didn't give the dose for whatever because, we came back early. So right now, with that being sent out of the facility, the system knows to not put that on the to-do list for staff to give because it was sent out. So we need to go in and make that available for staff to give. So we would go back under clinical and we do the same process again. We click on medications sent out of facility. We'll choose, our date range again. Maybe I need that dose for the 24th to be available. We're going to choose our resident again. And then when we come in here, this is really nice. You can see with a green dot exactly which medications were sent out of the facility. So I can quickly see that these were the medications sent out. Maybe the family gave that dose for the 23rd, but they brought this one back. I'm just going to uncheck that box. So then that will be available for staff to give. If this was given while the resident was out, you don't want to uncheck that. So that's why this was previously checked that we had sent it out, but if the family member brought it back and said, we brought mom back early, so you guys will be able to give this when it's time, then I'm just going to uncheck this saying that we're going to be, available to give that. Mm-hmm. And if maybe they didn't give either of these doses and brought those back, you can uncheck those as well. You wouldn't need to run another report though.
Okay.
Okay, so then that would put the medication back on the to-do list for that specific time that it was scheduled for, this one up here. Now, we did some counts, narcotic or controlled medication counts during a med pass. If you are doing them like at change of shift, if you require that, that would be up here under clinical and medication counting. We would click there. The residents are going to show up here, but it's only going to show the residents that actually have a controlled medication on their current medication list. So I would start at the top with this resident, and if you want them to have two people that go through the count, I'm logged in now, and then I would have my witness put in their username and their password here. So I don't have to log out and have them log in. It's all done right here. I'm logged in, they're putting in their username and their password, and then together the two of us would go through and I'd say, okay, for Elizabeth here, we have her lorazepam, and we do the count together, and we put in, the count. There's an optional note field if for some reason you needed to put in a note, and then you're going to click Save Count for each medication. So if you have, like this one is a lorazepam that's scheduled for 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., that's one count. And now I have this as needed lorazepam. That's a separate count because technically that's a separate prescription. So you don't want to mix the counts for scheduled versus as needed medications. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So then we would go through and say, okay, we have the as needed dose, and we're going to put in that quantity there. Maybe if I said there was 51, maybe we counted and there's 51, and it's going to, whatever your policy is, I would encourage putting a note in here, RN notified or administration notified, just to, make sure this, if I click save here, that will create a pill discrepancy or a controlled med discrepancy that you can see on your login report if you have that on your login report. And you can also have that set up as an alert if you wanted to. How I went through and showed you how to set up alerts, Jama, you could have that, or Lydia could have that as an alert as well if you wanted. So then we would just continue to go through and we would do the count, the remaining count for each medication. This guy or this lady has quite a few here. And then we can click next resident and it would take us to the next resident that has controlled medications, and we would just do the same process again and we would go through each resident that has controlled medications. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. So if the pharmacy sends me new medications, I can come up here and I can click received medications. If you guys get yours all in a bubble pack, correct? You're working on getting that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I would encourage you to, well, it's up to you, but it would probably be easiest if you just counted or documented that you received the medications not in the dosage box. So like if you have an as needed Ativan or as needed Tramadol or something like that, you could come in here. I can say that I received from the pharmacy more lorazepam for this resident. I can have my witness put in their username and their password, and we can together count and say, okay, we received 10 from the pharmacy, so we're going to add that to the count that we have, and we're going to do a count, make sure that we have the 25 that the system has recorded, and then we're going to add the 10 that the pharmacy gave us, so then that new total would be 35. So that's how you update your count in the system, by doing this received medications when you receive them. And you can enter an optional note if you wanted to, and you'll click save, and then that will update your count there. Any questions on medications? The other thing, as far as medications go, is disposing medications. Maybe I have a pill that fell on the floor and I'm not going to be giving it to the resident. I'm assuming you have a policy in place of how you dispose of medications, and there's a way you can document that in the system. Up under clinical, dispose medications will bring you here. I would choose my resident that I am disposing the medication for. It will, my system or my computer's loading here. It will show the resident's medication, and then if I check this box, it will show medications that were discontinued in the last year. Maybe I have some medications that were discontinued and I need to dispose of them. You can see with this orange flag at the top that this was a medication that was already ended. If I needed to get rid of that, I could do that. Or if I'm just maybe I'm going to get rid of one aspirin because it fell on the floor. So quantity or count disposed, I'm just going to get rid of that one tablet. You can put an optional note in here. It will require you to put at the bottom why you're disposing of the medication, so you don't necessarily need to put something in here, but you can if you want. And then you can choose, if there's other medications, you can choose that. Otherwise, if I click my arrow to the bottom, it brings me all the way down here, and it's asking me for a reason. If I go a little bit further down, it says spilled, dropped, or spoiled. So I'm saying that I dropped that tablet. And then whatever disposal method, however it is you get rid of medications in your facility, you would put that, that reason in here. And then if you had a witness, they would put in their username, their password, and then we can click save. And that documents that medication is being disposed of. This is the same process if you have a resident that is discharging from your facility and you're sending their medications with them. It's the same process. You'd come up here, click on dispose medications. And even though we're not technically disposing of them in the sense that we think of when we drop a medication, they're still leaving our facility. So we would choose whichever resident it is, and I would put in here, however many, maybe it was a full bottle of 30 tablets. You'd go through and do that for each medication if you are sending them out, and then once you have in all the quantities, down at the bottom, my reason, I can put patient discharged, and then disposal method, I could put given to new facility or given to resident or guardian. So that would be another way that you could document that. All right, so that's most of the things for medication. We haven't really gone over much of this black toolbar up here, so I kind of want to do that now. You'll always see your name when you're logged in the upper right-hand corner here. If you ever see someone else's name, for whatever reason, maybe they forgot to sign out, you're going to want to definitely sign out and sign back in with your own credentials, because everything you do in the system is marked with your name. So I can see here which facility I'm logged into here. If I click here, it brings me here. You guys will have your campus and you will have a test campus. So anybody can go to the test campus by clicking on it and clicking done. And then you can actually go in and practice charting, practice doing different things in your test campus. So it's a nice way to get used to the system, practice charting, look at the different options. It's just a really nice way to go in and kind of play around in the system without having to worry about altering anything in the live campus. Also under our name here is support. So if we click on support, that'll bring us to the Residex support page. In this top link here, it says get help from Residex support. And the bottom one says sign up for regularly scheduled training sessions. So if I click on this top one, it brings me here to our support page. It has our contact information, our email, support@residexsoftware.com, our phone number here. It tells you our business hours, our regular business hours, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. But we do have someone on call overnights, weekends, holidays. So if you are working and it's after hours or on a weekend and you're trying to chart something, it's not working, the system isn't letting you do something, if it's interfering with completing your charting, we would want you to give us a call, even if it's after hours. If it's something that's, you just had a question on something and it's not interfering with charting, we would maybe ask that you wait until the next day or send an email, and then we would be able to get that answered during regular hours. But if there's something urgent and it's after hours, overnight, on the weekend, you can always give us a call at this number, and we're more than happy to help. These documents on the side are how-to documents. If I forgot how to chart, I can click on e-charting. It will kind of give you information step by step on how to go in and do things. If there's something specific, maybe I need to forgot how to send meds out of the facility. So if I start typing in the search bar, I can see here meds sent out of facility. If I click that, it will bring me here, and it gives me a step-by-step guide on how to go through and send medications out of the facility. So it's a really nice place you can go to if you need information on something, if you forgot how to do something. And then if we go back to that first page here, the second link, if we click on that, brings you to our training page where you can sign up for classes. They are free and unlimited, and these are all of the classes. It tells you on the bottom who the class is intended for. So this is the one that we're doing today, the e-charting and EMAR, intended for all staff. There's some that are more for like nurses or admin, but it's always a nice place you can go and learn more information. If you just click into a class, it will bring you here where you can click register for this training. Brings up a calendar, shows you the dates, and then it'll have the date and time. You just enter your information here. Make sure you have a valid email address in here, because that's where the link would be sent to for a meeting, just like what we're doing today. Then you'd click register and you would be emailed that link. So that's always up under your name and support. You can always get support documents there. If I click into settings, it shows me here I can change my password, and I can add a backup phone number. When you create your password for the first time, when you log in, it has the option to enter a backup phone number, and I would recommend doing that, because if you forget your password, if you have the backup phone number entered, you can reset it from your phone. Otherwise, you would need to call JAMA to have him reset your password, because we can't do that here at Residex. Then over under the fax print screen, you can run certain reports, and you can always get back to your login report here. So that's a nice place to go, again, for different information, and it's a good communication tool. Your Today screen will obviously bring you back to your Today screen, and then you can, choose your provider that you're working as. I'm going to sign back in as my Betty White here, because she's got a different access than what I have. Under clinical here, incidents, if you have something like a resident fall or maybe a med error, if you come under clinical and go to incidents, you can click here to report an incident. I'll choose my date and the time that it occurred. If it's something with the resident, obviously that's usually the most common. I'm going to choose resident here, and I'm just going to say we had a resident fall. It's going to ask which resident, and I will choose whichever resident. And then when it opens up, you can see that these questions have this red triangle with a white asterisk in the corner, and that means that is required to be answered before the incident can be saved. So you will have to go through and enter something in here. If you're not sure how to answer, just try to answer the question as best as you can, and then Lydia and JAMA will be able to go behind and review those incidents and add any necessary information. But it's just very important to put in factual information. If you have this blue options here, you can choose from a list. So this one, like, indicate where the fall occurred, maybe in the bedroom. task being performed. If you don't know what they were doing when they fell, you can just write unknown, unwitnessed. Or if you know what they were doing, you can just describe it. If there's any injury, maybe I'll say a bruise and a skin tear. You can also free type in these boxes also. So you just, like I said, go through and write in, what the description is. The body diagram here is a nice place where you can actually click on the body if there's any injuries, bruises, any marks on the skin, anything that you would want to note that happened during the fall or suspected of happening during the fall. So maybe I have, a skin tear on the right forearm and maybe a bruise on her face. You want to be mindful of, this is the front of the body, obviously, and this is the back of the body. So I'm going to say right arm here, and then right side of the face here. And then down here, it will open up a corresponding box for number 1 and then 2. So I just put in a description here. Down here it tells us vital signs are required after submitting this report. So when I click submit, it takes me to a screen and it has a list of vital signs that are on here. It has anything that could be considered a vital sign on this page, but that does not mean you need to check everything. You would want to go by your policy, your facility policy, or if you contacted Lydia or JAMA and they said, can you check this, or this, then that's exactly what you would want to do. So it has the options for all of these, but you will just enter what pertains. I'm just going to say that I'm checking the blood pressure here. If there's a note that you wanted to enter, maybe I'm just putting that she said she was dizzy while I checked her blood pressure. Whatever note you wanted to put in here, if it pertains, you could do that too. And then down at the bottom, you could send these as a snap message, or you can click save and it will record those vital signs into the resident profile. So that's entering an incident. If I click on residents here, we can see our list of residents, and I'm just going to open one up just for an example to show you some different things. When we open up the resident profile, go back into the other campus thing. If I click into my resident, if they've had an assessment completed in the system by the nurse, you'll have a link here to their current care plan. So that's the same care plan that we reviewed in the beginning when I had that on my to-do list, but once that goes away, you can always go to their profile if you wanted to open it up and look at it again. If you needed to be reminded of something on the care plan or wanted to look at it again, it always opens in another tab from their resident profile. Otherwise, down here, you can get to that incident screen from here. I could go here and look at what incidents have already been reported, and I can report another incident from here. I click back, it takes me back to her profile. From medications, I can see a list of medications. On the top, it'll have scheduled medications, and then the bottom are as needed. This will tell me when they're scheduled for, which days, and which provider they're assigned to. Same with service plan. If I click on that, I can see their list of scheduled services and what time they're scheduled for, what days, and then which providers they're assigned to. If you have access to different notes and documents, you may see information in these tabs, but that will depend on how your staff profiles have been set up by JAMA. I can click here on vital signs, and I can quickly see her most recent list of vital signs. I can see if there was any notes entered related to those vital signs, and I can click record vitals here and quickly record another set of vitals. So we've talked a lot about our to-do list under which provider here that we're working. If I have something that I've done that's not on my scheduled to-do list here, if I maybe did an unscheduled chore such as extra cleaning, or if I do an as-needed service for the resident, from the today's screen, I'm going to click plus more, and it will take me to this screen. This was where I showed you how to chart that PRN medication. Up here is the more unscheduled charting. So if I have maybe a group activity that I did that wasn't scheduled, but you want to document it, you'll come here and you'll click unscheduled activity. You can choose the time that it was completed. You can choose what type of activity it was. Maybe we did a small group with bingo. You can pick your group size, which provider did that, the time that was spent on this activity, location, you can put in where that was done. And then I can see here, I have my list of residents, and I can choose each or any of them. I also could click the box here for all attended. Maybe I want to put in a note how they participated or how it went. From this blue snippet drop down, I can put that she was active. Maybe I invited this resident, but she declined, so then I can just uncheck that she attended, but it will still document that we did invite her to the activity. You can go through and just type or choose whichever one. You can also pre-type in this box. And then once I'm done adding, whatever it is for each resident, when I click save, it's going to actually document this activity in each individual resident's profile, so I don't need to go in separately and document that for everybody. It's really nice that you can do that all in one place. Also under the today and plus more, the chores, unscheduled chores, so that would be things like checking a refrigerator temperature, doing cleaning, changing garbages just for the facility. Anything that's not resident specific is a chore. So you may have some that have been scheduled for you, but if you do anything extra that's not on your list, you still want to go in and chart that you did that. So you would come in here, it will default to today's date and time. The type, maybe I did some extra cleaning, and I'm just going to put a note in. I can put how long I spent doing this chore, and then I can click save, and it will document that. And then also under the today and plus more, if I did a service for a resident that was not scheduled, as an as-needed service, I'll go in and choose that to chart an unscheduled or PRN service. Today's date and time is in here. It has my provider that I've been working as, and I would choose my resident here, and I would choose what service I did from the drop-down list. Sorry, my computer's being slow. Maybe I had a resident that asked for a shower a day early because she was going to be going out of the facility with family, and so she wanted to have her shower a day early. If I mark this here, if I go down and click save, it's going to have this red note box that pops up. We have to write in why we're doing a service that wasn't scheduled. And you can just put in here whatever the reason is. I'm just going to put resident requested. You have the option to send it as a snap message, or then we can just click save and then that documents that. Also on that Today Plus More screen is where I can go if I have any snap messages. You can see this little red number 1 that's kind of dancing in the corner. It tells me I have 1 message. I can either click on that and it will take me right to the message that has been sent to me. I can click into the message if I want to. I can reply to it if I need to, or if I just wanted to read it, then, you know, I could have clicked that read button or mark as read, or once you click into it, it will mark that you've read that. If I want to just get to my inbox from here, it's the Today Plus More, and it's up here under messages. I can get to my inbox from there. I can choose to send a new message. Maybe it's not even related to a resident. Maybe I just want to send a message to, you know, my coworkers. Maybe I want to say, you know, and then you can send that. So it doesn't have to be related to a resident. It's just like an internal, almost like an internal email system in our tasks. And from the Today Plus More, I can look and see my sent messages, who I sent them to. I can see that these have not been read by them yet. So that's kind of a nice place to go and see if your message has been seen yet. Otherwise, we can go over the time clock real quick too. So if I sign in, this is what you guys are going to see when you first sign in. It's the time clock here, and you're going to choose which provider you're working as, meaning which assignment are you working. You're not going to ever want to choose the not assigned. That's just a placeholder for our programmers. You're going to want to choose, am I working the day shift at the 14th Avenue house? Am I working overnight? You're going to choose which assignment you're working as, and then you're going to so I'm going to make a note to remove that. And then, okay, so then you would just clock in. If you sign out and sign in and you've already clocked in, you can just hit cancel. It will take you to your login report. And this is what you currently have on your login report, Jama.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then if you click on done or the today screen, it will bring you here. And then that's where you'll choose what assignment you're working as for the day. If I forgot to clock in, I can come here and clock in. If I maybe forgot to clock out or something, I can come to the Today Plus More screen, and I can see my clock in, clock out history. So I would be able to look here and make sure that I have clocked in and out for my shifts, and if not, then the staff would have to let you know, Jama, so you could come to the Today Plus More screen and edit the staff clock in and clock out history. The staff won't see this button; they'll only see the my clock in and out. And so then when you'll want to sign out every time you're walking away from your computer and then sign back in. But every time you sign in, you don't need to clock in again. I would just hit cancel here. Oh, one other thing that I forgot to show you. I'm going to go back to my demonstration database just because I have one more thing I want to show you. All right, if I have a resident that's going to be going to the doctor or has some sort of appointment, if you've created the referral appointment in the system, it'll have the MD visit here at the top. If I click into it, it opens up this screen and I can see the details of the appointment. It's scheduled for today at 3 p.m. for a quarterly checkup. This is the doctor, the clinic, that'll have their phone number, transportation details, daughter will transport, please have resident ready by 2:30. And then from here, before I click complete, I want to click print and print out this really nice report that comes up. And it has all of the resident information here, and it has their current vaccinations, their pharmacies on here, their current list of medications, and then down at the bottom it has an area where the doctor can write any new comments, diagnoses, write any new orders, and then they can sign and date that and send it back with the resident.